everyone, I am Dr. Sonal Jain from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. In this series of forensic science lecture, today we are going to talk about criminology, the concept of criminal behavior, and how there are various biological correlates of crime which define why a person shows criminal behavior because of certain biological correlates. That could be certain genetic factors, hereditary factors, or the biology of our body, various hormones which are being released in our body, various neurotransmitters, etc. So, for understanding the various biological correlates of crime, we should first understand what criminology is and what is the concept of criminal behavior. So, criminology is a scientific study of crime as a social phenomena. It is a science that deals with different aspects of behavior which violates criminal law. This Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders DSM-4, it defines the concepts of criminal behavior. It studies the relationship between crime and diagnosis such as antisocial personality disorder, conduct disorder and psychopathy. The concept of criminal behavior was given by Andrews and Bonta in the year 2000, which distinguished between the four definitions of criminal behavior: legal, which behavior which is prohibited by law; moral, which violates the norms of religion or morality; social, which violates norms of custom and tradition; and psychological, which inflict pain or loss on others and which give antisocial behavior. So, they have defined or categorized the criminal behavior into four categories. Our law has defined certain activities which is illegal. So, conducting those activity, if a person is conducting murder or any burglary activity which is prohibited by the law, that is defined as legal criminal behavior. Any act which is done on the name of religion, that will show immoral behavior of a person. And if a person violates any customs or tradition, that is social criminal behavior. In the year 1998, Andrews and Bonta, they gave the definition of criminal behavior: antisocial acts that place the actor at risk of becoming a focus of attention of criminal and or juvenile justice professionals. The legal definition was given by Bartle and Bartle in the year 2005. It is determined by the society at some point of time. It is considered socially harmful. It may not be morally wrong. Each society has different and changing set of values. The concept of a criminal is defined. Legally, a criminal is one who is convicted by court for violating the law of the land. Technically, the term criminal is not applied to a person who is not convicted of a crime. So, a person who is convicted and whose act is being proved under the court of law that this person has committed this crime, then we can term that person as a criminal. Otherwise, we have to say that this person is a suspect. A criminal cannot be defined a criminal until and unless the evidence proves person to be a criminal. But the law has also not specified when the term criminal starts and when it ends. Society continues to keep the tag of a criminal along. This provides a negative feeling under a person who might have committed a criminal act under some rage. But a society can never accept a criminal back to society. He always becomes a victim of the society. Efforts should be made to correct and re-socialize him, but people of society should also take proper measures to accept that person back into the society. The scope of criminological studies include the criminal investigation officer, probation and parole officer, prison services, police forces, criminal intelligence analysts, researchers and security officers. So going with, there are certain biological correlates of crime which result in a person to show a criminal behavior. The biological or neurological factors, they do not act in isolation. It is continually influenced by the psychosocial and physical environment across the lifespan. How the person was being raised, what were the environment around him when he has completed his early years of childhood or adulthood or young adult age. So a lack of physical contact, verbal stimulation and social responsiveness from parents and caregivers can substantially alter the rate of intellectual, emotional and social development in children. Tremblay and Cote use the example of mothers who smoked during pregnancy as one of the environmental influence on the neurological and biological developments of infants. Such children were found to have numerous problems like low birth weight, hypertension, hyperactivity, inattentiveness, impulsiveness, aggression. So all those features, whenever how the person behavior will develop and how he will rise in future, also dependent on the factors of the pregnancy of mother. If the mother is in stress during all the time, then that might influence the child also and the behavior of child also. Apart from this, we have certain genetic influences. Over the past 30 years, more than 100 twin and adoption studies have examined the relationship between genes and aggression or violence. Various scientists have concluded that both genetic and environmental factors are important in the development of antisocial behavior or a person who is showing the antisocial behavior. Ree and Waldman in the year 2002 have estimated that environment plays a significantly more important role in the development of antisocial behavior than does genetics. So, if the genetics is playing a certain role of a person becoming a criminal, but the influence and the significance of the environmental factors on the criminal behavior of a person is more than the genetic factors. Some researchers have further suggested that genetics may play a more prominent role in the development of those who commit property crimes and plays a less important role in the development of those who commit violent crimes. So they have basically categorized and designed in such a way that the criminal behavior which is being driven by the genetic forces is due to, will result into the crimes which are less violent in nature. But the persons whose criminal behavior is being developed by the results of the environmental factors, they will commit crimes which are more violent in nature. However, the study which is being done by the Perusse and Gondroy in the year 2005 lacked the evidences and the results were largely inconclusive. So, we cannot say with at most certainty that the person who are committing less violent crimes is due to environmental factors and more violent crimes is due to genetic factors. The brain chemistry, earlier scientists have discovered that the self-regulation and executive functions are found in the frontal parts of the brain known as the frontal cortex. The frontal lobes are seen as responsible for planning, controlling and verifying behavior in the presence of goals. So, our brain, the frontal brain, it plans, acts and controls our behavior. Dopamine is one of the neurotransmitters which is a biochemical found in the frontal lobe of the brain. It is involved in the transmission of neural impulses within the nervous system, without which communication within the mammalian nervous system would be impossible. The assumption by the scientific community is that low concentration of dopamine in the frontal cortex may be linked to poor self-regulation and faulty executive functions. So, the neurotransmitter like dopamine plays an important effect on the regulation of the behavior of a person, and if the concentration of dopamine is low, then it might execute certain faulty functions. So, along with the genetic factors, environmental factors, the brain chemistry also plays an important role. Another neurotransmitter along with dopamine which has been linked to poor impulse control and violent behavior is serotonin. Many individuals which show aggressive behavior, who show violent behaviors towards other person, they have found to have the low levels of serotonin in their frontal cortex of the blood. In the year 1997, Cosina, in the year 2000, Lesch and Meshdorf, and in the year 1998, Lauber and Stouthammer-Lauber, they have conducted these studies to prove that serotonin levels as neurotransmitters also influence the criminal activities in certain persons. There is also some evidence that levels of serotonin may explain to some extent that the differences in physical aggression between men and women, and the low levels of serotonin are also linked to depression and suicide cases. Hormone and aggression are also linked. The two hormones that have been implicated in influencing physical aggression and antisocial behavior are the androgen testosterone and the stress hormone cortisol. Studies have found that the antisocial children and adults often have low levels of cortisol. The evidence to date suggests that the more aggressive the behavior or the more serious the antisocial behavior, the lower is the level of cortisol in the person. So, the hormonal levels or the neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, etc., they play a role in determining the behavior of a person. If we talk about the genetic factors, in the year 1965, Jacobs et al. He suggested that men with XYY syndrome were more aggressive than normal men who are XY. His study found that XYY men were overrepresented in the prison population. There were 15 sufferers per thousand in prisons and 1 per thousand in the general population. So, the extra addition of chromosome Y in the persons, it lead to the criminal activity. XYY men, they have lower intelligence, and it could be this that leads to aggression. Having an extra chromosome, either it's X or either it's Y, it leads to deformities in person. Having an extra Y chromosome have shown that it leads to aggression in various person, and they might show the criminal behavior or criminal activity. Similarly, with the genetic study, hereditary also have a role in the criminal behavior of a person. There are several studies which have attempted to determine whether the criminality is hereditary by studying family trees, statistics, identical and fraternal twins, and adopted children. All of these methods fail to prove that criminality is hereditary because they cannot separate hereditary influences from environmental influences. These both influences go hand in hand. However, the hormones, the criminal behaviors also have been associated with a testosterone, which is a male sex hormone, progesterone and estrogen, which are female sex hormone. The administering estrogen to male sex offenders has been found to reduce their sexual drives, which in turn might lead to less sexual crimes. Now, when we study the modern biocriminology, the ongoing research has revealed numerous biological factors associated either directly or indirectly with criminal or delinquent behavior. These factors are chemical, mineral and vitamin deficiencies in the diet. A person, if he is having diet which has low mineral and low vitamin, a diet which is high in sugar and carbohydrates, low level of glucose in the body, hypoglycemia, ingestion of food dyes and lead, exposure to radiations and various brain dysfunctions. All these factors, if we see together, this is the modern biocriminology. If the persons are not taking their proper diet and their brain dysfunctions, they have hypoglycemia, that also might result in criminal behavior or activity. Then the biological correlates of crime. After that, there are certain psychological theories which also shed some light what are the psychological reasons where person can show or deviate from the normal societal behavior. Many theories regarding psychological causes of crime include intelligence in crime, psychoanalytical theories. The intelligence in crime, the idea is that crime is the product primarily of people of low intelligence, which is being popular in the past. But a study in the year 1931 showed that there is no correlation between the intelligence and criminality. The psychoanalytical theories of crime causation are associated with the work of Sigmund Freud, who believed that people who had unresolved deep-seated problems were psychopaths. Persons characterized by no sense of guilt, no subjective conscience and no sense of right and wrong, they have difficulty in forming relationships with other people. They cannot empathize with other people. They are also called sociopaths or antisocial personalities. Then we have the sociological theories. Sociologists emphasize that human beings live in social groups and that those groups and the social structure they create influence the behavior of a person. Most sociological theories of a crime causation assume that a criminal's behavior is determined by his or her social environment and reject the notion that a person is born criminal. There is a strain theory given by Robert Merton in the year 1938. He wrote about a major contradiction between cultural goals and societal structures. He called the contradiction enemy. He argued that the limited availability of legitimate institutionalized means to wealth puts a strain on people and people adapt through conformity, that is playing the game, innovation, pursuing wealth by illegitimate means, ritualism, not actively pursuing wealth, retreatism, dropping out cowardly compulsion to flee, rebellion, rejecting the goal of wealth and the institutional means of getting it. So, these conformity, innovation, ritualism, retreatism and rebellion, these all can also inflict some deviance of behavior in the persons. Sutherland in the year 1939 gave the learning theories. In his theories of differential association, it was the first 20th century criminologist who argued that criminal behavior was learned. This theory, modified, remains one of the most influential theories of crime causation. Sutherland's theory that persons who become criminal do so because of contacts with criminal patterns and isolation from anti-criminal patterns. This learning theory is still being used by various criminologists because they say that the criminal behavior is learned. What society we are living in, what environmental conditions are being around, and how the person is behaving in that society is a learned behavior. Sutherland's theory is still the basis for the other theories of criminologists, which is also the basis of all theories, the learned theory. He says that probation does not function as an aversive stimulus, punishment is not consistent and immediate, and offenders are generally returned to the environment in which their crimes were committed. There is no positive reinforcement of alternative behaviors. So Sutherland has defined that the punishment which should be given to the criminals should be consistent and should be immediate, and the offenders who are returning to the same environment, they should be returned to a different environment so that they can start a new work life. Then apart from the learning theories, we have social control theory. The key question in the social control theory is not why people commit crime, but rather why don't they commit crime? Why do people conform from that behavior? Hirschi, who argued that delinquency should be expected if a child is not properly socialized, by establishing a strong bond to society which consists of attachment to others, commitment and involvement in conventional activities, belief in the moral order and law. And recently he wrote that Michael Kofferson, that the principal issues of deviant behavior is ineffective child rearing, which produces people with low self-esteem or low self-control. So the person or a boy who is not being grown up in a socialized environment will show or deviate from the normal societal behaviors. There are 4 types of sociological theories: social structural theories, social process theories, social conflict theories, and the rational theory. The social structural theory, there are 2 types of social structural theories. Social disorganization theory, the first one, it focuses on urban conditions that affect crime rates, which shows that if high unemployment is there, high school dropout rates is there, low income levels and large number of single parent households, they contribute to crime. So if the society is not properly organized and it works or functions in a disorganized way, then the societal structural will lead a person to show a deviant behavior. Whereas the strain theory says that a crime is conflict between people's goal and the means they can use to legally obtain them. Basically, the strain theory holds that people in a low socio-economic class have less opportunity to achieve their goals, so they will commit crime to do so. The strain theory is different from the social disorganization theory. Social process theory say the crime is a function of individual socialization. The interactions that people have within their environment lead them to criminal behavior. This also includes the social learning theory, which states that crime, like everything else, is a learned behavior. A person's family members, peer groups, as well as other groups within a community influence their behavior. Whatever the person sees, in which environment is being grown up, everything is being, whatever he is learning is that learned behavior, and that person is showing that behavior in future by his act, which is deviant from the society and is criminal behavior. The social learning theory is a social process theory which can also contribute to burglary. The individual may have peers or even family members that commit crimes, and he or she has learned from their criminal actions. Small criminal actions may lead to a bigger action. So if a person has seen that their parents might picking up certain amount of money or some other amount of any theft they are doing, so there are chances with this social learning theory that that particular person might also become a burglar in future. However, the social conflicts theory, which is also known as the Marxist theory, state that crime rises in response to political and economical condition. An example would be if person robs someone, that conflict theory contend that the criminal was forced to do so because of economic conditions brought on by the inequitable distribution of wealth in the society, and he also may believe that he is justified in his criminal behavior because of the societal position he is having. So he believed that normally the criminals are the rebellions or the people who belongs to a lower class. However, the rational theory contends that law violating behavior occurs after offenders weigh the rewards with the risk. If the rewards outweighs the risk, a crime is committed. If a person thinks that I might commit an act of burglary and I will take some whatever theft I will conduct will have a larger sum of amount and my future years will be in better position, then he might feel like spending an year or two in jail is worth that theft. So there are the reasons, the rational theory which says this is the reason for the burglaries. If an individual is walking home from the bus stop and sees a door unlocked with a $20 bill lying in the floorboard, he will say let's take this risk and earn free money, and door is unlocked and no one is around, he or she will have opened the door and take that money. But there are certain critical approaches to explaining crime. One is the labeling theory, which emphasizes the criminalization process as the cause of some crime. Once a person commits a first criminal act and gets processed in the system, they are labeled negatively as a criminal, which might influence their behavior more towards negativity. The conflict theory focuses on the conflict in society between the rich and poor, management and labor, whites and minorities. So the conflict theory is basically dividing maybe on the basis of caste, creed, color or the economic status. Whereas the radical theories are the theories of crime causation that are generally based on a Marxist theory of class struggle. It argues that the more unevenly wealth is distributed, the more likely people are to find persons weaker than themselves that they can take advantage of in their pursuit of wealth. This Marxist theory say the struggle class, that the people, whether they are physically weaker or they are economically weaker, they have found them in that situation that they look for wealth and they look for easy money making. So mostly due to those reasons they commit this act of crime. In conclusion, the theories of crime, they offer various perspectives to understand the complex nature of criminal behavior and its underlying causes. These theories range from various biological and psychological factors to sociological and environmental influences, which we have seen throughout the lecture. We should say that no single theory can fully explain all instances of crime. They collectively contribute to a more comprehensive understanding of a criminal behavior. The biological correlates we have seen, the genetic factors we have seen, the neurotransmitters we have seen, the various psychological factors we have learned, the sociological theories we have seen, the strain theories have seen. These all influence cumulatively for a person to commit a crime, and thus we need to study all these factors individually as well as collectively, because then only we can understand why the person behavior is deviating from the normal behavior and why that person is showing criminal behavior, and we can move forward for a better society. Thank you.